Hello again. I just wanted to make a second video. I've just recorded that first one, but here's another one, and it probably won't be uploaded today, but I want to talk about which I think is the last layer, the last layer of self-inquiry, or even the thinnest, most subtle, not step, but realization. And it's a subtle difference, but it's beyond, you can't describe the difference in experience, because again, this is where it matters. Experience. I always say, in this moment, in this experience, are you free? Not in thought, not in understanding, not in theory. Do we go about our lives with this understanding of liberation, of freedom, of emptiness, of self, others, objects, subjects? Separation. Is that gone? Has that permeated all experience? That is where I'm interested. Sorry, that was a bit mental, but coming back to it. So, in experience, so the last thin layer, in my experience, like in a spiritual experience, was a last thin layer. You've gone through everything which you're not. You've sat with self-inquiry, and it comes to a point, you're not the mind, you're not thoughts, you're not this face. No. You've come from Advaita, where it's yes, inclusive, everything self, okay, whatever. There comes to a point where it's very obvious that you can't locate yourself anywhere. Even when you think you're behind the eyes, you can't find yourself. Even if you think, you're just nowhere. But if there's even still a sense of an observer, or even observing, then that's a subtle thin layer. You're very close, but it's still a layer. It's so subtle though, and it would have come into being maybe in your early years, because think of a baby that's wide open to the world. All it knows is colour, dancing colour, sounds. It doesn't even have a sense of I'm here and that's over there. There's just, and that's reality to its absolute purest. Not that you can ever see reality from an observer, but with no thin layer of thought saying here, there, locality, space, time. What does a baby know of time? How does a baby know? Sorry, let me check the microphone's recording. Yeah, it is. How does a baby know? Where it is in the world? What time is it? Its gender, its age, its name, and everything that's layered. This is what layered over time. And so what this creates is this, obviously a self, but also the thin layer of observation, which when you work through all the layers of what you're not, you get to a stage where it's still a thin layer, and it's in the visual sense. It can be in the hearing, and then even to its core in the body. And this is the birth of the self, I think. This is where the self feels to be here. So what to do? This sense of an observer, even when you can see that you're not anywhere located. And all I would say to that is stay with the sense of witnessing this observing. Just witness the witnessing. Just watch, because this last step isn't taken by anything. It's not even taken. It's a falling back. It's a surrender, this last step. If anything, just stay in experience, stay in the senses, and let go trying to change anything. That'll get you closer than trying to get rid of the observer. Is it Adyashanti, I think, says the best way to feel separate is to try to not feel separate. So let's come back to it. You're at a stage. I should have said this at the start. If you're new to self-inquiry, this is going to make no sense. So I'm really sorry. This I'll probably put in the description. But if you've got if you've taken self-inquiry all to the end of self-inquiry, freedom lies on the realization that even the observer is an illusion. So let's go into the visual field, because I find the visual field to be the most hypnotic, the most, it feels very, if you open your eyes, there is reality, there is a world, here is a self, and it's there. So going into the visual field, and we want to notice this sense of here and there, this very subtle sense of, because it's very easy to think, oh, I'm very present, I've gone the whole way to Sankari, but if there's still a gap between experience, if there's a division between here and there, between, there's a watering can here, and I'm here, this difference. So what do? All we can do is carry on the investigation / let go and surrender. It's a bit of a dance. Sometimes inquire. So, for example, the active investigation or the inquire would be to see, well, in the visual field, this observation, firstly, just witnessing the observer, and trying to find this observer in this visual field. Noticing where the visual field starts and the observer starts, and what the mind does, it may sink when it realizes that you can't find it. Peace is only there when we grasp and can't find. So we're looking for boundaries, we're looking for this observer. The observer is constructed after the experience. Could it just be that the seer and the seen don't exist? Could it be that there is only verbs, there's only seeing? We think of it as the observer as a noun, a seer, one noun, the other object, another noun. But where does the subject and object start and begin? We can't find it anywhere. So this is a kind of active investigation. And then I would suggest just to let go. You can't even let go, but just to stop trying and just stay in experience. Because it can be weird, because you feel like you're trapped in this still, you're witnessing of life still. But there's nothing more to the seeing than the seeing. There's no seer. There's no nouns. Everything becomes a process, a doing, not a doing, a verb, a happening. So the hearing, for example, we think of sounds out there. Try and find a contact point. This is what I always say to people. Try and find the contact point where we think it's the eardrum maybe, and obviously there's processes in the body which happen, but we can never find where the sound hits an observer, the contact point. Where do I start? Where does the sound end? The mind doesn't understand this miracle of life. It's an absolute miracle. So it tries to create a separate self to be able to explain why I'm here and that's over there, and create this sense of person. So let's keep it on the topic of the observer. If you're at a point where it feels very subtle, just know that you can even go further than the observer, and it will get to a point where you can go about your life, the whole of daily life throughout the world, without being an observer or a separate self. Even the witness is so intimate. This is the word, intimacy. When there's no observer, nothing appears further from you or closer to you. Not because nothing is no longer further away, but because there's no you to be further away. It's so intimate. It's weird at first, but it's so peaceful because there's no grasping or attachment or aversion. That's really crucial as well. Of course, there's no attachment, but there's no getting away from experience, because for you to not be observing, there's no gap between experience. It hurts if it feels like something's hitting, but when there's no gap, there's no suffering, because nothing feels away from you. So let's keep this very much also practical, if you're still inclined to investigate this, and not just keep it in wishy-washy spiritual terms. coming back to it, just stay with this sense that you are an observer, and try and find this observer, even though it's really subtle, this witnessing, and stay with that. Because even if you don't trust it at first, you'll start to realise that there is a way of living, because it's your natural way, unlearning, to get back to, remember this, we're not learning, we're not building anything, we're actually releasing and removing these layers of resistance and these layers of thinking we're separate. Because if you did nothing, if you truly allowed surrender, all these resistances would think, and you'd see clearly again that you're already free. But we can put ourselves in the situation which may allow this realization to arise. We can't do anything about it, but we can probe and we can ask questions. We can make ourselves accident prone. There's a guy called Frank Yang that I follow, and I love some of the things he says. In a way, awakening's an accident, but we can make ourselves accident prone. So yeah, hopefully that helps some people. Just know that there is an extra step to take to see through even the witness, until it's just intimacy. There's no gaps between experience, there's no division in experience. And of course this will fluctuate over time, because the ego is like a train with momentum. It will carry on, but you can get to a stage where there is no separation, or there was never a separation, but there's no illusion anymore, there's no confusion, there's no delusion, just this. And the joy of life comes from just being, and because it's amazing. It is. It's how you felt as a child, or how I felt as a child, just in awe of the world. The taste, the sounds, touch. With no one to be here, it's a miracle. It's so weird. But we're all so busy like this that we don't look. All we have to do is look. That's what investigation is. It's just seeing. Just looking without thoughts layered. Just looking. If you just wanted one page in a spiritual book, just look. Look without putting your own preference, your own thoughts, your own assumptions. What is reality? What is experiencing without assumptions? Where is the sense of me being here and that over there? It's just light dancing. It's just colours moving. And can you stay there for longer and longer until thought only arises out of a function to be able to move in the world, eat, talk, and then you're not suffering? It can be done. And this miracle starts being the only source of joy is internal. There's nothing out there. It's all just intimate, no separation. But until then, if there's still a sense of an observer, investigate it.